Good morning, and good morning, guys. Welcome to another fabulous episode of Exit Strategies Radio Show. Hey, I'm your host, Crone J. Millett, broker and owner of Exit Realty Group in beautiful North Charleston, South Carolina. Guys, if this is your first time listening to this show, I always say this, and we always prove ourselves correct, that you are in for a treat. Because our mission here at Exit Strategies Radio Show is to empower our community through financial literacy and real estate education. Guys, we are legacy building. That is our hashtag. So, as I always ask you, when you're doing those wonderful things, when you're investing within yourself to create and build a legacy for your family for generations yet to come, guys, I want you to put that hashtag on that thing that says that you're legacy building because that's what you're doing. So, today, guys, I am super excited, guys. We have been on this mission internally to bring you the best guests, to bring you the best speakers, to bring you the people who are making an impact and making a difference, not only in quote unquote our local space, but at the national and international level as well. And guys, today I'm super excited to introduce to you Scott Krone with the Coda Management Group. Scott, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I wasn't sure you were talking about me when you did that introduction there.
Well, look, just so you know,
At the right time.
Look, I actually hire myself out for introductions.
Okay.
So yeah, that's that new thing that I'm putting into place this year. So please let me know, and I'll make sure I send you a quote for my services.
I appreciate it.
So Scott, look,
I think that's what a hype man is. That what it is?
Yeah, exactly. Look, because we got to bring energy to anything that we do, right? My word for last year was impact. My word for this year is increase. So if I go backwards, I'm gonna say that I'm gonna increase my impact. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So Scott, so we were talking, for our listeners, guys, Scott and I we're chatting it up, quote unquote, behind the scenes before we came into the studio officially. And in our conversation, Scott, we jokingly said this, but you've been a real estate investor or investing in real estate for a long time. I think it was the word that we used, and you said that's relative or something like that, correct?
That is correct. It is relative. And for me, it seems like a long time, but for others, it might not be.
Well, so let me tell our listeners. So Coda Management Group, you have a few different companies. So I want to make sure we kind of talk about all of them and what each of them do as we kind of delve into more of a conversation. But if you don't mind, introduce yourself. You're a Coda Management Group, but tell our listeners a little bit more about you, who you are, and what got you to where we are today.
Well, my real estate career began when I was getting my master's degree in architecture. Okay. And I was fortunate enough to get a professor who was a real estate developer, an architect, and contractor, and he worked on multifamily developments. And so my master's thesis was a $100 million, 400-unit development on 50 acres. And so I was his TA. That meant I worked for him in the morning, and then I went to class with him in the afternoon, and then I did homework for him in the evening. And so, the only other thing I could do was sleep. So that was pretty much my life in graduate school for 3.5 years. But I got a wealth of experience because when I was working for him, my undergraduate was in history, which meant that I could read and write. It's the only thing it meant. So I was on the development side while a lot of my classmates were furthering the drawings and developing the drawings. And then when I went to class, I would work on my portion of my drawings, and then homework, I would continue that. And so I got the architectural side of it, and I also got the development side of it. And so at the ripe old age of 28, so that's where it's relative. I thought I knew everything at 28, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how stupid was I back then? I began Coda Design Build. We began Coda, and we were a development, architectural, and contracting company at the time. And we began in single family homes, and then we quickly moved into multifamily as well. And we've worked on 5 different churches and done a range of things. And then the crash came, and everybody was being pushed into multifamily. But that's when I began discovering about self-storage. In 2013, we started Coda Management Group, which is more on the commercial side. And since 2013, we've been developing a portfolio of self-storage. I sold off my apartments. We've been focusing on that. And then in 2021, we started One Stop Self-Storage to facilitate our self-storage portfolio.
So, one of the things that people I think sometimes miss, and it's interesting, and I this thing just kind of boom when you said it, you sold off the apartment buildings. So, people always look at traditional investing when it comes to real estate, houses or apartments or what have you. And what you did was, and tell me if I'm wrong. So I'm telling you what I heard you say. I heard you say that you exchange people for stuff. What I mean by, yeah. So what happened was you got rid of the people because people have issues. So you got rid of the people and just kept their stuff.
That is a good way of explaining. I haven't quite communicated that way. The way I've described it is apartments without toilets, and it's all a box. I mean, I've worked on $14 million homes, and I've worked on $100,000 homes, and the only difference is how much stuff we put into those homes. So if we take that analogy, a self storage is just the most simplistic form of that box, right? It's just a box with nothing that people can put their own stuff in it, as opposed to me putting theaters or kitchens or bathrooms or those sorts of things. So to me, it's all the same equation. It's just a matter of how complex the box is.
That's fair. That's fair. And you got out of the people problem business, so to speak. Because
Yes.
I mean now that's rampant, especially in multifamily housing. A tenant floods out a unit and you've impacted in a building, according to how high you go up, you've impacted everybody below them. So you may have several people displaced because of one simple little thing. But when you don't have the people, all you have is the stuff. That's a different animal. So that's very interesting. So you can use that just by the way. You can I
It
got
comes
rid of,
with the introduction.
yeah, it comes with the introduction. I got rid of the people, I kept the stuff. Now we just manage the space their stuff stays in without the people in it.
Absolutely. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about, you've done a number of things, and a lot of our listeners, Scott, are kind of everybody approaches it. I think I, kind of said this a little earlier that most people kind of approach real estate investing the same way. They do the same tunnel vision, the same box. They want to first start with a rental, they get a rental property and have a person in it. And some people get turned off to that and then do kind of what you've done or go to some other type, or some just get out of it altogether. But the people that are truly committed to real estate investing, let's talk about a few of the things that, to be very transparent, you're extremely versed on. And one of those is distressed assets and how to make a profit. So tell listeners a little bit more about that.
Well, to me, real estate is how to maximize the value of the property, right? So it doesn't matter if it's a single family home or a multifamily or mixed use or whatever it may be. And when I did real estate coaching, I agree with your point, because everyone thought they had to do a template. I have to do wholesaling, then take wholesaling, then they get into fix and flips, and then I'm going to build a portfolio, and then I'm going to have going into commercial with apartments, and then after that, it's gravy train, right? But not everyone enjoys those things. It's not like, I don't enjoy wholesaling. I feel like I'm spinning my wheels. I've utilized wholesaling, but it's not something I've employed full time. And so what I always say to people is like, what do you enjoy? What do you enjoy doing? Right. So for yourself, you enjoy the interaction with a potential buyer or seller and how to help them maximize the value of their property, whether that's through your advertising, your marketing, how you show the property, your connections, or all those things, right? So those are the things that which you are doing to maximize the potential or value of that property. And for me, that is what real estate is about. So if I can look at a property that is distressed and that has a huge variety of words, and for what we've been doing on the commercial side is we're taking an empty box or an underutilized box and figuring out how we can get the most revenue out of that box. And for us, like when we bought a vacant building in downtown Dayton, it couldn't be converted into apartments because they couldn't have enough parking. They had no other property to have parking, and the basement didn't allow itself to line up with cars to efficiently get enough density in the building. And so for us, we could go in there and fill it with 800 lockers, and we could increase the revenue of the property and increase the valuation of the property. And so that's exactly what we're doing. We're taking a building that is being repurposed, changing the use of it, and then creating more value out of it.
There's a term, and I'm losing it right now, that I think is obsolete or something. So basically, when you have a property that the highest and best use of the property is not being achieved, then the building is going to consider to be obsolete. So, I would probably fit in that umbrella of words that you could assign under distressed. It's
Correct.
something that's not being properly utilized or could be better utilized. And you guys approach it and take it and okay, let's repaint the canvas. And I'm gonna stay on storage for just a moment, but I want to get to a couple other points. But one of the things that I see a lot of, and I imagine you do it, is where people take perhaps older, dated self-storage locations, and then they go and raise the entire site, and then maybe build a larger high-rise or larger storage facility to be able to place more lockers there, as you were saying. Is that something that you guys do as well?
We have never taken down a building to build self-storage. So all we've done is we've converted existing buildings
Hmm.
and we've expanded on existing properties. And then we've also built new on vacant properties. But for us, we see the value in the existing building because like the one in Toledo or Dayton, I'm buying them for around $1 million, which is like $11 per square foot. It's
Yeah,
well
that's
below replacement cost. I can't build a building for that. So why tear it down and build a different building?
Yeah. And that's something that a lot of people don't think about as well. There is a cost associated with. So if you can have a space, repurpose the space, there's a significant savings on redeveloping overall. Learn about you have a development company. So there's money that you make in development. And especially if you're doing development for somebody else, you make a fee in that development. But when you're redeveloping, then you're able to save them significant money while you still obviously would make a fee. So you're a big passive investment guy. Obviously, money making money is a whole lot better than you making money, even though you making money is great too. So, you have a few what we refer to as kind of tips, that things that you live by, that you swear by, that people should be doing. So give us kind of, Scott, a taste of that, an introduction of that. What are some things that someone who's looking to establish themselves, to really build, grow, accumulate wealth, what things should they be doing, and what mechanisms should they be utilizing to get there?
Well, I think we've touched on a couple of them already in terms of one, you make your money on the buy, on the acquisition. And so what we're doing is we're looking at how we can buy below market rate.
Hmm.
So, for instance, we just bought 9 acres of property in Michigan and it was $150,000. The reason why it was so inexpensive for us was because it didn't have the proper zoning. And so we took it through the proper zoning. And then right before we were supposed to close, the owner tried to retrade us because he knew that we increased the valuation of it. And we're like, no, we have a contract. By doing that, by changing again, we changed the purpose of the property, changed the valuation of the property. Now the property is worth more. And
Hmm.
so that's just one example. So when we're buying these buildings well below replacement cost, that's the other one is, we're making our money on the buy. And a lot of people are speculating. So when I've been through 4 recessions. I'm going to call what we're in now a recession. So we're entering our 5th one. And whenever I've seen it right before the recession, everyone is speculating on the future and they're buying based upon the speculation as
Hmm.
opposed to buying based upon the market. And that's where a lot of people get burnt because they think that the property is always going to appreciate. And so when I've seen markets that are just taking off, people are buying overpriced, not thinking that this process is just going to continue. And there's always an end. That's the thing about real estate. Once you think you have it completely figured out, it's going to make a turn on you. I mean, who thought 08, 09, right?
Yeah.
And, that was a major turn that we've never seen before. An entire massive bank in the United States just going under because of how they did things and how that imploded the entire economic structure. This structure is a little bit different. We've never printed this much money before. We've never gone through, one, a pandemic, and then 2, a supply chain, and just the amount of cash that we're flooding the market with. It has to cause a recession because of inflation.
Yeah.
So what's the only thing that the Fed can do? The only thing they can do is raise interest rates, which is going to slow down the economy. It's not brain surgery, right? I mean, what the underlying causes are due, but not the results of these things, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, makes perfect sense.
And so what we're doing is we're always looking at how we can do it on the buy. We're always making sure that we can do it on the buy. And then the second thing is how we can reposition the property in a better situation so that we can maximize it. Now, if we're taking, it's hard to do with a condo, right? You can't expand a condo. You can't make a 2-bedroom condo into a 3-bedroom condo unless you buy another condo. So when we look at a single family house, if you put an addition on it, you put a second story on it, you turn it from a 2-bedroom into a 3-bedroom or 3-bedroom into a 4-bedroom. These are all ways in which you can make the property of more value. Or if you're looking at doing development, if you can get, when I first did my 400 unit development, that was my master's thesis, we started off with 1,000 units. And the municipality kicked us all the way down to 400. And we figured out we could still make it work at 400. But imagine if we got 1,000 units, how much more value that property would be compared to 400. And so there's always ways in which to see how you can improve the valuation of the property by income, density, those sorts of things. So those are the two massive things that we do.
So you touched on something there, because a lot of people don't realize that. And even, let's say, when they're on the other side. So, for example, you have a piece of property that you're selling to a potential developer who's looking to put whatever there, whether it be self-storage, whether it be another commercial development, or even a residential, small residential development or what have you. The value is based upon and predicated upon what you can place there. And a lot of people miss that, Scott. They think, they kind of think tunnel vision one way. And like you said, you plan 1,000 units and the municipality ticked you back and said, no, you can't put, any more than 400 here. So that is definitely a massive difference in value for that property because of the use. And a lot of people miss that. That's interesting. Now, you guys do a lot of, well, let me ask you this. You still work with investors directly, with your company? Do you still leverage investor funds and things of that nature for your developments?
Yeah, we do. And we're actually moving in a groundbreaking new direction with that as well. So every one of my projects since I started in 1998 with a single family house, we've had investors. So in that project, we had 3 investors. We sold it and, they did very well. And they said, do it again and don't tell anybody. That's like, that means I got to tell everybody. So, and a lot of people are like, well, I don't know anybody. I don't know any. And, at that first project, we raised $100,000. And people said, well, I don't know anybody who has $100,000. Okay. Do you know 2 people with 50,000? No. Do you know 3 people with $33,000? 10 people with $10,000? Whatever it is, it actually becomes easier to raise more money than it is to raise a small amount of money. Because if you're trying to raise $40,000, then people say, well, why can't you do it on your own? Don't you have $40,000? Well, the answer is I do, but if I put $40,000 into this, then I'm not going to be able to do other things. So, but I'm trying to include you in this in order for us to both grow. And that's where the team element comes. But one of the things that we're looking into doing is we're getting into blockchain. Because blockchain I think is going to replace the title companies in terms of the transactions. But the derivative of the blockchains is the coin, is the crypto side of the world. And we've created a new coin called Store. And Store is going to be not only an investment tool, but it's going to be traded at the self-storage. And we have a network of self-storage owners across the country that all have their facilities, which will be able to utilize this coin as an incentive for their customers. And the customers can work within any of one of these networks. But the idea of it is someone is looking to take crypto and convert it back into a tangible hard asset. They're going to be able to do that through the Store coin.
Oh, that is, whoa. Hold on. Let me get my head, put my cap back on, because that just blew my mind right there. That is amazing, man. So essentially, you're developing a currency within the industry to utilize, for people to be able to utilize and trade and do things within the system. Is that what I just heard?
Yeah. So 2 sides of it. If you have crypto, and let's say it's in Bitcoin or Doggy, whatever it is, you can convert it into Store and invest it into a tangible hard asset, self-storage. And as the valuation of the coin will increase, your investment will increase. And by all the facilities increasing in value, it's going to bring up the value of the coin. So the coin is tied to a tangible hard asset, but then also our customers, not our investors, our customers will be able to use the Store coin as well. So if they want to make a payment, they can pay in coin, or if they want to invest in the project, they can invest in Store coin. But the idea of it is that if they move from, let's say, Toledo to Dayton or wherever, they can transfer that account, they can transfer that coin to the next facility.
That is amazing, man. One of the things, Scott, that, when you talk about crypto and talk with multiple people, you kind of got different schools of thought. I mean, obviously, you know that. You have some school of thought that obviously this is what everything is going to be in the future. Let's go. And then you have the others that kind of question, well, it's not tied to anything. So you have a currency that is tied to a hard asset, to a fixed asset. That building ain't going, quote unquote, ain't going anywhere. That is, listeners, guys, y'all have got to get your hands and your mind around this piece of it. Now, Scott, we've been talking for a little bit. I want to make sure our listeners, obviously, for our listeners, that if you guys hit our website, you'll be able to pull Scott's information from there. Follow us on our social media pages. But for our listeners that may not get over onto our website, get over on our media channels or what have you, Scott, how can people get in contact with you?
Well, I really appreciate that. The best way to get hold of us is at info@coda, CODAMG.com. That's info@codamg.com. And what we do is if anyone references this show, we will give them 2 free gifts. So the first one is a feasibility study that we did on one of our properties, which not only talks about the self-storage industry as a whole, but it also talks about why we should invest in that specific location, because the self-storage market is 3 to 5 mile radius. It's not like a city. It is a specific demographic. So when we do this feasibility study, it's for that specific location. So you can see why it's beneficial to do that. It has all the different factors that go into it. And it's third party. So that's why, it's not our assessment. It's someone else's confirming what we've already determined. The second thing is we'll give them a self-storage deal analyzer. So you can compare it to like a multifamily or single family. So all you have to do is plug in the numbers and then we'll generate the rate of return and the calculations for you. So we will send out those 2 free gifts for anybody who referenced this show.
Look here, if y'all don't tune in and get that right there, look here. When you started talking about and most people, when people move, people use, if they have more stuff or something, whatever's going on, they use a facility that's close to them. They're not traveling 20, 30 miles to put their stuff in storage. They're using a facility that's right there next to them. So in this analysis, I'm pretty sure, Scott, that, you guys kind of take in account in this radius, how many households are there? How many are renters? How many are owners? There's probably a formula as a number of people, like demographic wise, whether owner or renter, they use self-storage facilities. Everybody's attached to stuff. So, and you're the guy that keeps stuff. you're that guy. I keep your stuff. Hold on. That should be a mantra for Scott Krone. I keep your stuff. That's what we do. So
and we should have called you before we came up with one-stop self-storage. We thought that was pretty good, but yours is better, man.
I love it. So that is impressive. And we miss that piece. Again, we always are so focused. Like you said, you made a gradual migration. And as you made this migration, you made massive improvements, massive. I'm a Grant, Cardone fan. We talk about massive change and massive impact in your business by positioning yourself or going from this over to this. That is, boom, mind blown, man.
Well, there's 2 things about that. One is the industry is moving and adjusting, right? But the coin is the byproduct of the blockchain. And I think blockchain is the real technology where all of this is going. Because if you think about it, it didn't click for me until I learned more about the blockchain. But what the blockchain is a contract. And what happens is when all the elements of the contract come in, that contract is locked. And then the contract is then dispersed across the internet into different servers so that it's in high level encryption. And so in order to see what's in there, you have to have the keys, if you will, to see what that contract is. But that contract cannot be facilitated until all those things happen. What is a title company? A title company is basically an analog blockchain. And so we're thinking that the entire real estate industry, as well as the law industry, is going to be going to a blockchain. As the byproduct of that is the coin. So when people invest in the blockchain, they create a coin. So the coin is just simply a byproduct.
That is awesome. That's awesome. And that is such forward thinking, Scott. Such forward thinking. So, Scott, we've had an amazing show, man. We're back to the part that I don't like because it's like you can continue the conversation like forever because you literally have been blowing my mind over here with that concept. And I'm one of these people that when I start looking at and because I'm a serial entrepreneur, I'm sure you are too. So every
Well,
time
I
you hear
see it down
something,
at the bottom of here with all the different web pages that you got here, right?
so it's like, okay, we can do this, we can do this. Oh, this could be done, and let's do this. And you start, and it's like my wife says this thing is she says she sees my matrix. It's like she sees, and it's like a bunch of calculus formulas and all this stuff that comprises the vision that I see. So, man, you got a heck of a matrix, my man. You have a heck of a matrix, and our listeners need to be in contact with you. So, Scott, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. As we wrap up for our listeners, guys, I want y'all to break Scott's email. Okay, info at Coda Management. So, info at CODAMG.com, right, Scott?
That is correct.
I want y'all to break his email. I want him to look and be like, oh, shoot, what did I do? So,
I got to change if that happens, I got to change all my marketing for, we keep your stuff, and
because this is where we need to go. And I'm saying this, guys, you know what our mantra here is about financial literacy and real estate education and about legacy. And we always approach it from the initial step when we can hustle up and we can be much further along. This is that phase. 23 is that year, guys, for us to hustle up. All right. So we need to hustle up, and we need to hustle up to people like Scott. We need to call Scott. Hey, Scott, I'm here. All right. What can I do? Teach me. Let me know something. Give me some ideas. Hey, how can I invest with you? How can I do this? How this is going to benefit me and my family? Because we want to make sure that we show up so we don't get showed on. So that's one of the things that we want to focus on. So, Scott, again, thank you so much for being on the show today. I appreciate you. For our listeners, guys, y'all know what I say. Y'all know that I mean it because I say it all the time and I embody it with you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And we're going to see you guys out there in those streets.